Thank you. That's really good.
We have some extra chairs here. After John Cruikshank is finished speaking, we'll bring out the extra chairs. They're up here apparently, and I want to get them out as much as we can before Erson speaks. Awarded, our club has, for Politician of the Year on a number of occasions. And two of them are here right now who have each received 2 Politicians of the Year award. Both George Chen. You only have 1? I thought you got 2.
Okay.
I am wrong. We might be correcting that in the future.
I think it's Aurelio. Aurelio got one.
Aurelio did get 1.
What about Mayor Bill?
Not yet. So, our next gentleman has had a tremendous amount of headaches this past year, as we know, with landslides. Being an insurance agent, I'm not able to give much relief in information to many people there, and it works out to be just 2 letters, NO. So we don't want to say that if we can, but in certain situations, things are impossible to correct. So I have a great deal of sympathy for where he's at. However, when he was talking to President Trump, and President Trump's golf course is within the outer limits of the slide area, I let him find out and tell us if there's anything coming from the federal direction. Because I can tell you right now, the people who live in Rancho, Palos, Verdes need that help. And this is where I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Mr. John Cruikshank.
I appreciate that. I guess just for fun, because I always give Scott a hard time because of the initials of this club. PV is the last initials. I always tell him to put PV in front, but just for fun, how many people are here from Torrance? Oh, wow, okay. I knew there'd be a good number. Okay, how many people are from Lomita? Oh, wow, that's actually a pretty good group. How many people are from the Palos Verdes Peninsula? Okay, so I guess Torrance wins this one. We'll keep Torrance as the first letter then. I really appreciate the Torrance, Lomita, PV, CRA having me. It's a great group. When I started my campaign for Los Angeles County Supervisor, this was the first group I came to speak to, and you've always been very supportive of me, and I appreciate that. I also want to thank my colleagues, both George Chen and I, when we first ran for office. The first thing we did was we both endorsed each other. Neither of us were in public office at that time, but when you speak with George, you could tell that he's a genuine guy. Like, he always speaks the truth. He tells it like it is. He's the most modest guy you'll ever meet, and he's one of the smartest guys. You know, he's from the aerospace industry. He's already retired. I'm going to be working for probably at least another 20 years. So he clearly has gotten it right, and so he's done a great job. And he actually had to run like 3 elections and what was the number of years?
3 and 6 years. It was 3 consecutive elections.
Yeah, so 3 consecutive elections that George had to run in. So he's kind of like the Iron Man of campaigning. But he always does it with such a smile and positive about it. He never complains about anything. He just does his work. And that's just so nice to have people that represent you, just listening to you and doing what you hope that they do. And when he disagrees with you, of course, he'll let you know. Like he's honest about that sort of thing. And then same with my friend Bill Uphoff. In their city, just like my city, I think they still have a majority Republican on their city council. Is that still correct? And so Bill's one of those guys also, he's just honest and open about everything. He's unassuming though. Like I've been serving with him on the South Bay City Council of Governments, and he will not say anything until he's ready to say something. And then when he's ready to say something, watch out. That guy, he is so prepared to counter-argue things and stick up for his community. And I think that's really important. And I think one of the things that we all are disappointed here in California is that we never feel like we're represented, right? Our votes seem to never go anywhere. That's why we're so happy about Trump winning, because all of us, most of us probably, I shouldn't say all of us, but I'm pretty sure most of you voted for Trump. And it's just amazing seeing the election results the night of the election, like George had said. I mean, we all just expected that we would see something similar like last time. You know, he's in the lead, and all of a sudden he's not in the lead. And then all of a sudden, where's these 20 million votes show up? So we all know where they showed up from. So I just want to acknowledge my two colleagues as well. And then, of course, our friend Scott. You know, Scott's tireless. I think he sent out about 20 emails about this meeting. And he's smart, too, because most of us just kind of hit delete the first few times. And then if you just... on all emails, not just Scott's emails. He's persistent, and you can see that his group is growing. And of course, I told Scott when he asked me to speak with George, I said, well, you're forgetting about Bill. I said, you have 3 Republican mayors that are part of your club. And how many CRA clubs in California could say that? Not a lot. In my city of Rancho, Palos, Verdes,
That's a really good point.
when I started, we did have a majority Republican. It was 4 Republicans to 1. And the one Democrat that's on our group has actually become a good friend. He's a fiscal conservative, and so I wouldn't really consider him, you know, one of those hardcore liberals that we all know. And ever since I've been on the council, since 2017, we've been a majority Republican. And this, when I leave, I'm term limited out, and I'll be gone in December, as will Eric Alegria. And this will be the first time since I've been on there that it's not going to be a majority Republicans. There'll be 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and an independent. But I think it still shows you, though, I mean, there's a lot of great people in our community. Our city, if you look at the numbers, and I know people like Art and others look at the actual registration and numbers and follow that, you know, we've been losing Republicans for so many years. And I don't know exactly what to attribute it to. You know, I'm a 3rd generation Los Angeles County person. I grew up in El Segundo and migrated south to Rancho, Palos Verdes. And when I lived in Redondo Beach, it was when I was a young adult, we had so many Republican clubs back then. I don't know how many of you guys remember that people were proud to be Republicans, and they weren't ashamed. They didn't get shouted down. And, you know, there were Democrats, certainly, but the Democrats were much more moderate. You know, you had more like Jane Harmons versus kind of the crazies we have now. And you look back at that, you had the young Republicans, you know, you had the business Republicans, South Bay Republicans, a lot of great groups. Art was back in those groups. And so we miss that. And what's happened is I think there's a disconnect. And I really appreciate what George was talking about, because it really takes more than just the CRA groups and the 66 Assembly District. It takes the elected officials to actually join that fight as well. And then, more importantly, it takes us to have the courage to start speaking up against what we know is wrong. And I think what's so great about what happened nationally is that I think the rest of the country is starting to give the middle finger to all this woke DEI BS that's out there. You know, we all know that it's wrong. And the rest of the country basically said, you know, enough's enough. And I think a lot of people in California, I think he got at least 40% of the vote in California, which is absolutely incredible.
Yes.
And, you know, if you start looking at the map, you know, who voted Republican 4 years ago till today, you can see the red is starting to envelop the coastal cities, which is great news as well. I think San Diego had a tremendous amount of Latino voters that turned to the Republican Party. And so I think that's where I want to start my talk. You know, so I did have an opportunity to meet with President Trump on September 13th. It was Friday the 13th.
Oh, wow.
And he sat with me for 20 minutes. I was showing up there because he was having that big press conference where he was going to talk about how disappointing California is and how when he gets elected, he's going to come back and help this great state. And which is amazing. I mean, that was his whole message, and he used his beautiful golf course to give that message. So I knew he was going to be there. Of course, you all know what's going on in my city with the landslide issue. It's been happening for the last couple of years. And I have a lot of positive news which I will share with you, but at that point, we were just kind of at the low point. Like, the residents, 250 residents still had power and gas shut off. Think about that. When you lose your power for an hour or two, You're pretty angry, right?
Yeah.
Think about losing your power since July 29th.
Oh my God.
Think about that. I mean, just months. And we hear from Southern California Edison that, and hopefully none of you work for Edison, but even if you do, I don't care. Edison is a monopoly, just like the other utility companies. None of us have a choice in who we can have as providing power or gas or telephone service. These are all monopolies that are forced upon us by the state of California. And there's 3 major power companies in California. And Edison's job is to provide power to residents and to businesses. And when the landslide movement started is moving 50 feet a year at the worst, and it used to only move 5 feet a year, 50 feet a year, so 10 times faster through the landslide area. And that's why the gas company, which, you think of gas companies, of course, if they're gonna have lines that break, they're gonna have real bad problems. So we get it, but we knew when the gas company said they were shutting off, we knew that there'd be issues with the other utility companies. And our worst fears came true just within a week, and Edison turned off the power. And so my problem with it is, I get Edison's concern about overhead wires, but they should have had a plan B ready to go, which means batteries, solar, and other off-grid technologies. Those things are out there, and they still refuse to do that. And they say that it's the CPUC's fault that doesn't allow them to do it. And so what I've learned over the last couple of years through this whole landslide issue is that our government's broken.
Yeah.
Our government, from the county to the state to the federal government, is broken. Now, with Trump coming in, this is the exciting part, is you've got a guy like Elon Musk that's willing to stand up and take his innovation and create this Department of Government Efficiency. If I get a call to join that, I'm going to be one of the first to do it. That is awesome. We need to get rid of our deficit and debt and all that, and I think that's what we need to see. So going back to Trump on the 13th of September, so we met at his golf club, which is in Rancho, Palos Verdes. It's less than a mile away from where the landslide's occurring. And we spent 20 minutes together. He had his obligatory Diet Coke and a bowl of clam chowder that he got part of it on his lapel. And he gave me a MAGA hat, you probably saw that. I was carrying it during the press conference. And well, his first thing was, because he's a developer, he kind of looked at the map and he took both hands and he went, "Can we just bulldoze everything?" Okay, that sounds clever, but no. We can't just bulldoze everything. But I like where his mind was going. He's like, let's just illuminate the problem. And then he said to me, then he asked me, "Are you a Republican?" And I said, "Yes." So then I guess he probably felt a little more comfortable. And then he said, "Can you solve the problem?" And I said, "Yes, we could solve the problem. But the problem is, our tax dollars go to the state of California, the federal government, and we need help from the federal government now. We know the state's broke, so we weren't going to get any money from California. But I said, we need help from the federal government. Our residents need help. It's an $80, $100, $150 million problem, and our annual budget is only $38 million a year. We just don't have enough money. In fact, we just drained all our reserves to winterize the landslide area for our residents." And he said, "John, when I win re-election, I will take care of Rancho Palos Verdes."
Oh, that's good. We gotta hold it to that. That's what you do.
So this morning I
good
wrote
to
a
hear.
text to my friend Lily Amini, if you know her. She's the general manager over there, and every Sunday she calls the president-elect just to tell her how his golf course is doing, and so she is going to be reminding him about that. I am going to send another letter from the city reminding him about that. I only met him for 20 minutes. I can't really say this or that, but a lot of people say that he doesn't forget anything, so he's probably already has it in his mind to help the people, he said. So that was amazing. And what was really interesting is I had a chance to, while he was interviewing with Trace Gallagher before his press conference, I had an opportunity to spend maybe 10, 15 minutes with Stephen Miller, one of his senior advisors. He was in the hallway at Trump, and I said, I can't, he's just standing there. I have to take this opportunity to ask him stuff, because he's so smart. And the question I asked him is, can the GOP come back in California? Because he's such a great strategist, and I think that's all on our minds. Like, how do we start getting more balance in our California government? I mean, we're not asking for more than just get rid of the super majorities, so that we could have at least some dialogue about things instead of just having one party behind closed doors deciding our fate. And you think about it, they're barely a majority of registered voters in California, but they have 100% of all the offices in California. And so we're not represented at all. So I asked Stephen, I said, can it be done? And he actually said, I've been thinking about this a lot. And he said, there's a few things you need. He said, first of all, you know that the Latino voters is becoming more prevalent. They're going to become more of the majority voters, so you need to be able to attract them to vote. And you can see that Trump actually made it work, right? Down in San Diego, and I think every county, you probably look at the Latino vote, he probably did better in every county. And what he said, the reason Latinos vote on things is they vote on issues. And not just issues, but people that say they're going to do something and actually do something. And so they look for strong leaders. And so I think, and he said, but you also need the money. You need 1 or 2 or 3 billionaires. You got to have the money. Because what happens is that all the donor money now goes to other states, and nobody believes in Republicans winning, so they don't give us money. Like when I was running for supervisor, I had a hell of a time raising money. Nobody believes in us. And I only got 14%, so I can't really say that was a great return on investment. Anyhow, but if we could get some big money, if Elon Musk and some of his friends start bankrolling some of these campaigns and we find the right people, and you guys all know great people, and we should have people running for school boards and city councils and supervisor and state assembly and governor, all up and down every ticket. And if we have the money to do it and we start helping each other, what happens is we all run these separate campaigns. I'm sure when Bill ran, he figures all things out himself. George does the same, I did the same. Nobody's sharing information. We need to start helping each other. Let's find these candidates that are winning, you know, the Mike Garcias and the others. It shouldn't be something where it's a hidden knowledge. The Democrats help them. Everyone helps within the Democratic Party. They all pull together, and that's why they win and they have the money. We have money in California. It's just, unfortunately, the money comes from businesses, and businesses are afraid, they're afraid of retribution. That's the reason that the businesses don't give to the Republicans, is that they're afraid that we're gonna, like the other day, I was at Roscoe's for the election night party. I don't know if you heard this in Long Beach. We had an election night party, and now all of a sudden a lot of the people in Long Beach are gonna boycott Roscoe's because they were hosting a Trump or election watch party, of all the things. I mean, think about that. If you were to boycott every business that voted for a Democrat, you'd probably, I mean, where would you, where does it stop? So anyhow, I think that the key is independent expenditures and business pacts, where the businesses could be a part of these political action committees but not have their business name out there. I think we should encourage businesses to join those and help, because if you think about it, it's our businesses that have been just getting destroyed. I'm sure there's plenty of real estate people in the audience right now, and the real estate industry has just been getting destroyed in California. Some of the things, I just saw one letter from my friend Tom Swanner in Long Beach, and apparently the county sheriff is not enforcing these deadbeat renters. They're not going in to evict them, even though they now should be evicted. So now they get more and more free rent on the backs of these mom and pop apartment owners. There's so many issues out there that are just so wrong that we need to take care of. All right, so Trump's inauguration's on Monday, January 20th. Who's gonna try to go? All right,
Maybe.
good.
Washington?
Washington, D.C. Of course.
We
You
want
could probably get Ted Lieu's tickets, right? I'm sure Ted Lieu's not going.
Ted. That's right. You have to ask your congressman.
Or Maxine Waters, you could probably contact her, she's not going. So think about the things that Trump's gonna be able to take care of. Inflation, all these taxes, energy. Energy is such a huge thing. Like, almost everything revolves around energy. Our inflation, I mean, he is absolutely right about drilling and being energy independent, and we all know that. And we have to I mean, that's just him winning, and that happening alone makes me celebrate. So in California, I'm going to go down the list and I'll talk a little bit locally and then I'll be done. I'm making Bill, I told Bill I'd talk a little longer. So I talked about California, how their supermajority doesn't represent California, we know that. And they're able to do things so liberal because nobody holds them accountable. These things that they do, I think they pass, Art probably knows, but is the number 1,800 bills a year they try to pass?
Yeah.
At least 18, they should be trying to eliminate 1,800 crappy bills every year.
Oh my gosh.
So, just so you know, we are 5 senators away from getting rid of the supermajority, so 5 Republicans of the 40, and then 9 assembly members of the 80. So that's where we are. And I don't know, I know most of you know who Rick Grinnell is. Rick Grinnell actually lives in Manhattan Beach, and he has something called Fix California. And what he's learned from what they did in Florida is in Florida they identified more than 1 million conservatives that weren't registered as Republicans. And they were able to contact them and tell them, look, if you register as a Republican and you start voting Republican, you can start turning a purple state to a red state. And what have they done? It's a red state now. And what Rick Grinnell found out is there's about 1.4 million Californians that aren't registered that are conservatives. And every month he gets about $50,000 raising money. It costs $11.40 to re-register these non-registered conservatives to become Republicans. And that's what he's doing. He's trying to re-register people so that they're Republicans. His goal is to eliminate the supermajority in the assembly, state assembly, by 2026. And I think that's a great goal. So, like I said, his website is Fix California. You should check that out. I think that could be done. I want to, statewide, I want to thank the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association. Right? Yeah, when I was running for supervisor, I became really good friends with Susan Shelley. She's a great human being, and her and John Kupal and the whole HGATA, they defeated this Prop 5, which they're trying to reduce the voting threshold from 2/3 for new taxes down to 55%. They're always trying to do these things, trying to make it so awful, but I will say that I was against all the bonds that were on the ballot, and unfortunately I think all of them passed. I think even the one in my city. So I think, all the bonds, is that right? Yeah, all the bonds passed. Yeah, so here you go. So, all of us property owners, we have people that aren't property owners voting for new taxes, and they don't understand the consequences of that. And then they wonder, why is my rent so high? Well, hello. We are proud of Nathan Hockman, and Prop 36 are great victories for us. But ungreat victories. And I'm going to kind of disagree with my colleagues a little bit. I ran for supervisor, and so I studied on all the county issues. I always talk about the 115,000 employees that work for LA County. I don't know if you guys knew that many people work for LA County. It was a $54 billion budget that they have. This Prop A, of course, it made the tax that was going to sunset in just a few years. It's now doesn't have a sunset, and it went up 0.25%. So every time you raise sales tax somewhere, it just forces people to another county. So if you're in LA County and you're about to buy a mattress or a furniture or something, you think you're going to buy your stuff here in LA County? No. We're just cutting our noses off. You're going to go to Orange County, you're going to go somewhere where there's lower sales tax. Every time you raise taxes of any sort, that's what happens. We're not stupid. It takes us a long time to earn money, and when you earn your money, you're going to look for the best price and the lowest taxes, and LA County is certainly not that place. So we're just destroying our businesses here in LA County. And then I always say with this going from 5 supervisors to 9 supervisors, I mean, what you need is, you don't need 9 bad supervisors, you need 5 good supervisors. And so that one actually, that Prop G is interesting because the 9 supervisors goes into effect after the next census, which is in 2030. So I guess there'd be an opportunity if a new supervisor were to get in and convince 2 others to put it back on the ballot, get rid of this crap, because we don't need 9 supervisors. What we probably need is to carve out and have a South Bay County is what we need.
Yes, that is correct.
So the last thing I want to talk about is I just want to talk about inflation. I think this is super important. I think the things that affect us, the energy I talked about, high taxes, all these regulations, all the government waste. I'm so much against minimum wage and rent control, I can't tell you. I am a free market person. I've run a company since 1996. I have to pay my employees what I have to pay them. It's not minimum wage, it's an engineering company. But still, people are you have to pay what you have to pay. You can't give someone $2 and think they're gonna work for you, they're not. That's not how the world works. Same with rent control. Why would you put a rent control on a building? All it does is just force investors out. People don't upgrade their buildings, and it's just gotten worse and worse. So these stupid ideas that our politicians have, and I call them politicians because they're not our representatives. They need to be our representatives, but they're not. But all these things are destroying us, and I believe that when whoever the Republicans are running, I think inflation is going to be the biggest issue to continue to talk about here in California. I think it's a winning issue. I think you don't have to talk about 20 different things. I think it's our pocketbook that hurts us the most. I think that's what helped Trump win. I think people realize that just the price of everything is out of control. In California, it's getting to the point, I have a son that's 23 and he lives at home, and I don't know when he's gonna move out. I mean, I know you have kids that are like in that age group or younger. We're destroying their future, literally. They're not gonna be able to afford anything here. And so that's not good. And plus our senior citizens, we continually forget about them as well. 25% of our population on the peninsula are senior citizens. They don't have any extra money. And then you think, well, why are there so many homeless people? That's why. We keep making things so expensive, you can't live on what we make. And so we need to wise up. We need to elect the right people. George is right, we need to work. It starts today, it really does. So I guess with that, I'll yield the rest of my time back to Scott. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to the future.
Thank you, John. Thank you, George. And thank you.